we're upsetting the whole of the organic structure of the decaying mile or two of the earth, which gives us our life. In your periodic chart, carbon appears 3.5 octaves from Alphanon and 5.5 octaves from Omeganon. Why not 4.5 octaves from Alphanon, as would be midway or in the center? You counted by the gases, the inert gases, rather than by the element itself. The 9 octaves appear from one to the other, and the beginning is the end. And if you count them by the inert gases, you'll find that neon is the central one, and they're four on either side. Carbon is on one side of that, and silicon on the other. Is artesian water the same as unborn water? No. Artesian water is water that has filled the galleries and caves and crevices in the rock everywhere from rainwater. That is water that's evaporated from the ocean or from the earth, goes into the heavens and comes back again and seeps through the underground rivers. Great underground rivers, just as there are great overground rivers, and that is the water that we call the rain cycle, the rainwater cycle. It rises and falls and seeps in through and comes out again. That is rainwater cycle of either artesian or other wells that are nearer the surface, is the water that is lessening because of the taking of the tree growth down and of the destruction of the oxygen in the atmosphere that makes it necessary to pull more and more and more oxygen from the earth for its necessity, and not succeeded in doing, raises the temperature of the earth. The unborn water is water that is being released from the crystal structures, like the granite and the silicon. The artesian water is that which has already come out and circulating in the atmosphere to the clouds and back again. Please explain briefly what you mean by the term extending the fulcrum. In my understanding, the fulcrum is the stand that supports the seesaw. Do you mean by extension to make it higher, or do you mean to make the seesaw longer? I mean to make the extension, a fulcrum of the seesaw. The fulcrum is there in nature always. The moment you express a desire to do something, to make an action, then you extend from the fulcrum both ways. You make the seesaw. That's what it is to extend it, the amount of energy that you have. But you do not extend the fulcrum, you seemingly extend it. You seemingly divide its power. Because children on either end of the seesaw can express the power of motion. But that is all they do, express the power of motion. And that power of motion they express is the power borrowed from the stillness of the fulcrum at the center. I do not always have to like to say it's a seeming extension, because the universe is only seeming. Perhaps if I use the word, it's a thought extension. And it is. It's an imagined extension. In your thinking, you imagine. And you cannot imagine objectively without creating emotion objectively in your imagining. And so it is in the thinking process of nature there seems to be an extension or division which takes power or borrows seeming power without borrowing it but seeming to. Before I say it, the extension of power is like a person pulling away from the fulcrum with an elastic band that stretches and strains and makes it harder and harder and harder to pull away from it. But on the opposite side, there's equal pulling away to balance that pulling. But the power is in the fulcrum, not in the king. For instance, if you stood out on the prairie and pulled at a rope, you have no difficulty pulling at that rope. It will not pull you back. But you hit the post there, and the post does not move. And you take an elastic band and you hitch it to it, and you stretch away from it. You find it pulling back. Therefore, you've created two conditions at the same time. You've created a condition of extension and condition of expansion, and of retraction. That's the action and reaction nature. From the zero you have extended in every direction, because you cannot extend this direction from the fulcrum without extending in the opposite direction to balance it. The two conditions of decentration and concentration of mental thinking have been established in what we call an electric current. If you let that elastic go, it will go back to where it started from and disappear in the fulcrum. That fulcrum is the zero. That which we borrowed from the fulcrum is a multiplication of that zero plus and minus. One balancing the other, one offsetting the other. You borrowed 50 from that by your pulling, 50 plus. On the opposite side of that is a 50 minus. 50 minus and 50 plus, total together a zero. Nothing in nature ever exceeds zero. It seems to. And so we have multiplying and divided universe into pairs of opposite conditions of compression and expansion, two opposite pressures which make it possible to run our engines and do all the things we have and run the engine of our heartbeat and so forth. But the fulcrum of every lever extension, every seesaw motion, the fulcrum never moves. That is its zero, and the elastic bands will pull together and disappear into the light from which it came, into the zero light from which it came, to divide itself into two lights that will illumine the bodies that have extended from it. Those lights illumine and warm and heat and cool the bodies that are extended from it to make a universe like that. To make a universe that fits the imaginings of your mind. When it retracts back to that, there's no more warmth to warm the bodies, no more light to light the bodies. The imagined universe disappears insofar as that one desire is concerned. Life has appeared and disappeared in death, and it will again reappear. The extension of the fulcrum and its multiplication to a point of equal potential to that which is borrowed from the fulcrum is right, with all of the effects that is created by so doing, the effects of warmth and heat and cool and growth and decay and moisture that make up this universe. But when that elastic band pulls that back into the fulcrum, there's an absolute disappearance of all of it. The whole universe can't disappear at once because it isn't created that way. But that one pulsation will disappear. And the pulsations which appear by extending the fulcrum and retracting, those pulsations begin with an incredible speed, with an incredibly small duration. Frequencies of millions and millions of extensions and retractions. The seesaw extending and retracting so that its frequency is 186,000 miles a second. The frequency is growing larger, duration, accumulating time until the frequencies are so slow they'll give you 1 in 50 years of a tree, perhaps. The ant, the elephant, the sun, the solar system. Multiplied time, multiplied frequencies, multiplied abilities to accumulate these frequencies and wind them up to retard time for the sake of multiplying power. That's the lever principle. That's the fulcrum and lever principle. Shorten the lever, you lose time and you gain power. A man, by shortening the lever sufficiently and getting on the long end of it, can lift tons, where without that lever he could only lift 100, 150 pounds with the lever and fulcrum of his own body. He's limited to that, but with the, as Archimedes said, give me a fulcrum and a lever long enough and I could move the universe, which is true. Does life spring spontaneously from nature? A college professor said it did not. There is nothing spontaneous in nature in the sense that it is used. Everything in nature is planned. Everything in nature is the result of a desire to become, a desire to express in motion the idea of mind. Nothing spontaneous happens in your kitchen after the dinner dishes have gone there. A desire to reassort them is followed by action. And the fulfillment of your desire takes place by action. A word spontaneous is used often in the relation of combustion, spontaneous combustion. If you leave a pile of refuse out somewhere and some kindlings in it, or even some decaying vegetation and earth that will burst into flame, that's not spontaneous combustion. That's the result of accumulated power, accumulated the power of decay.